This is a show for grown-ups.
And they say bad words.
And they say bad words.
Say final warning.
Final warning.
Hello, and welcome to another spooky episode of the Pod of Blunders. I'm Nate. Spooky nickname goes here, Magnewski, your dungeon master. And with me is Richard Serpentine Sullivan. Now that sounds like a sex thing. Regular Richard Sullivan.
Hello!
Well, this sounds ridiculous when you do it. Never mind. And here's my lovely wife, Jenna Peterson Magnewski.
Hey, or whatever.
That's the kind of energy you can always expect from the Pod of Blunders. We're not playing one of our normal indie games that we've been playing recently. Today we're playing Trail of Cthulhu. Specifically, we're playing the adventure, The Dance in the Blood, by one Mr. Graham Walmsley. So I think we should start by introducing our characters. Why don't we start with my lovely and talented Richard?
My name is Dr. Michael Laws. My work in medicine is an extension of my love for people. Admittedly, I've never been a bookish sort, and I would claim to be academically competent rather than brilliant. Nevertheless, my bedside manner is excellent. I can put people at ease with a few words. That's what I consider makes me a great doctor, and quite frankly, bloody good at my job. My love for humanity extends to those around me. Jeffrey, my brother, is consistently in my life. Cynthia is my greatest comfort, although I must admit I have not been entirely faithful. Nevertheless, I would do nothing to hurt the people close to me. Although I practice in New York, I have come to Keswick for a welcome weekend away. Perhaps I'll walk a little. Inevitably, I will haunt the bar. And one never knows whom I might meet. Perhaps I will find a young lady. That would certainly help the week pass pleasantly. When I get back, I will see those I love. I must call Jeffrey, since I have not seen him in a while. For the moment, though, my time is my own, and I intend to explore this little area.
Jen, why don't you introduce your character next?
My name is Rosa Allen. It has been said you are a plain woman. This is perhaps true, although you resent being judged on that alone. You are also highly intelligent and, when someone gets to know you, loyal and loving. Yet what people remember is a large and brash woman. This saddens you. You are a successful antiques dealer living in Brooklyn. Your clientele consists of well-heeled locals, mostly middle-aged women, and knowledgeable collectors who travel great distances to view your latest stock. As a woman in the backbiting world of antiquarians, you've become bullish and tenacious. Shouting in auctions has made you strident. You are conscious, too, of being a couple of rungs lower on the class ladder than your clients, which adds a defensiveness to your character. Yet, despite your exterior, you are a deeply loving person. Your sister Priscilla is the dearest thing in your life. Your relationship with your mother, who lives with Priscilla, is also close. Above all, you are proud of getting things done. You are in Keswick for an antiques fair, at which you expect to fight dealers down to bargain prices. When you know what you want, those who stand in your way are doomed to fail.
So a little note, this game was written to take place in England, but I don't want to do a bevy of terrible accents, and nor do I want to subject you all to that, so we moved it to the Americas. So we're all in New York in this game. Jenna and Richard, or should I say Rosa and Michael, how did you get here? How did you come to Keswick?
I think we'll come by train.
Okay, so the train took you as far as Auburn, and then the rest of the way you had to take a bus. The entire time you've been coming in, the rain's been coming down in sheets. It's made visibility very low. On the way in, you've seen a lot of prairie land, very hilly, not very built up, very sparse the further you get from the city. The hills are rolling. They almost seem alien the way they come up out of the fog and the rain. They loom. Trees seem to sway in a breeze that you can't feel. And as you arrive in Keswick, you see that it's a small town overlooking the lake. Your hotel is the Blackstone Hotel. You've driven all day, you've checked in, and now you find yourself in the bar. What are you doing in the bar?
I'm going to the bar to order a drink and look for loose women.
Can't imagine that Rosa would be a big drinker as a single woman traveling alone.
Sure. The restaurant's also here, so you could always be having a coffee or a dinner.
Yes, that sounds more my speed.
Sure. This hotel looks like it was once a decent place. You know, they had lush carpets, beautiful bright yellow wallpaper. Rosa, you have a good eye for the antiques in the room. There are artifacts from the town's earlier times, a lot of old farm implements, that sort of thing. But everything here is faded. Everything here looks like it's been weathered or beaten down. The wallpaper is peeling around the edges. Stains haven't been bothered to be cleaned up off the walls. The carpet's worn and thin, faded. Everything's coated in a relatively fine layer of dust, and the gas lanterns have been turned down oddly low, so the shadows seem to seep out of the corners. One thing of interest is the wall, covered in photographs of the people from the town, of large happenings, harvest festivals, that sort of thing, weddings, births. The entire walls are just coated in these pictures. So Richard, you go up to the barman. He looks very bored. He's reading a book. He puts it down and says, "What can I get you?"
Gin and tonic, please.
You care about the gin?
Whatever's handy, sir.
Perfect. He grabs a nearby glass. It's the wrong kind of glass for a gin and tonic. He pours the tonic, splashes the gin, throws an ice cube on afterwards, shoves it in your hand and says, "Can I keep a tab open?"
Yes.
So he goes back to reading, nods at you, and kind of shushes you away with his hand. He sits back down with his book and starts reading again.
I'm going to look at the pictures.
You have a fairly well-trained eye for photography. You recognize, these come from the very earliest daguerreotypes and tintypes, all the way to modern things. Some of these pictures are only a few years old. One catches your eye in particular. It shows a family, a man and a woman, standing in front of their middle-class house with 3 children. One of the children particularly interests you. It says Rosa, and it has the age of 4 written next to it. And you recognize that this is you in this picture, but you do not recognize anybody else in this picture.
Huh.
Now I'm going to ask you to give me a stability check.
So I'm rolling D6, and I want to get what?
A 4, 5, or a 6. You can also spend stability to help this out.
I got a 4.
Hey, there you go. So
you said it was 3 kids, middle-class family. I'm in it, but I don't know anybody else.
Yep. And this is a picture that you do not recognize. You've never seen a picture of yourself this young before. You appear to be about 4 years old.
I'm going to ask the barkeep about the photograph and the family.
Michael, you see a woman kind of step back from the picture looking a little shocked, turns around and steps over to the bartender, pushing past you rather brusquely. And the bartender looks up and goes, "Can I help you, ma'am?"
That picture on the wall, and now I'm gesturing to a whole wall full of pictures and probably not being helpful. Tell me about that family.
So, Michael, you see this woman point to this picture, and you kind of look over and you catch something strange in the image. You stand up and look over, and you recognize 2 of the people in this picture. It's you, slightly younger than the woman in the picture. It says Michael, age 3. And then your brother, Jeffrey, age 5. But you don't know these people besides you 2, but you're definitely in this picture. And Richard, roll me a stability check, please.
5.
Hey, you're not shooken by this at all. Rosa, you said you went up to the bartender and asked who this family was?
Yes.
Kind of looks up from his book a little briefly and goes, "I have no idea. There's a lot of pictures."
Can I take it off the wall to look at it?
Are you asking me or him?
The barkeep.
Good. I prefer you didn't.
I'm going to do it anyway because apparently I'm a brash lady.
There you go. You have this picture in your hands. And Michael, what are you doing here?
Ma'am, forgive me, but I can't help but notice that I'm in this picture, and that doesn't seem quite right to me. If you would, I have a bit of a background in photography. Do you mind if I took a look?
I am too distracted by the fact that I'm looking for markings on the back of the picture.
Not on the back of the picture itself, but I think Michael has a background in photography, as you said. I think he's able to gently take it from you. He slides the photograph out of the frame, and he sees that it says Manistee on the back, and it says Waring Family, 1901.
Okay, so Manistee?
Manistee, Manesty. It's the name of a town nearby.
Is it daytime?
It's around 8:30 at night. You gonna put that picture back or what? Says the barkeep.
I'm going to take it back from Michael and gingerly reassemble it and put it back.
Is your curiosity satisfied now? Are you done disassembling my bar?
No thanks to you.
Mm-hmm. He goes back to reading.
How far away is Manistee?
He sighs heavily, puts down his book, walks to the door, in a show of extreme effort, picks up one of the road atlases, walks back to you, hands it to you, and says, "That'll be 5 cents."
In a show of great effort, I'm going to dig through my purse, take out a nickel, and throw it at him.
He looks down, sighs, and walks away from it. He goes back to his book. "Well, if you have any questions," he says without looking at you anymore, "ask somebody else." So opening the map, you see Manistee it's on the shore of one of the lakes. Nearby, it's pretty much the exact opposite of where you are on the lake. So there's a ferry service, you come to find out, that will take you across the water. Or if you prefer, you can take one of the coastal roads around the lake. But not tonight. It's very dark. And you've already paid for these rooms.
I was going to say, you seem very calm for someone who has apparently just met a previously unknown cousin.
Well, I rolled a high sanity, so I'm not shook at all. Well, no, I was just saying that I don't know you from Adam. My brother's also in this photo. He's older, I assume?
You guys are very closely aged brothers.
I'd like to find a phone and call my brother Jeffrey, see what he knows of this.
Sure, the barkeeper hands you the phone and says, "It's local only unless you want to pay for it, but I'll just add it to your tab, so go for it, buddy." So you pick up the phone, the operator answers. Phone rings, and rings, and rings, and then no one ever picks up. Rosa, is there anything you want to do before bed?
I just wanted to look at the adjacent pictures and see if there were any other people that occur in multiple pictures or are connected somehow to any of the other ones around it.
There are. You recognize the man and the woman.
In the same picture?
No, you see a picture of their wedding day when they're, of course, younger, about 6 years earlier before your picture. Then you see one later on, shortly, it looks like maybe 10 years after the picture with you in it. And it's just the man by himself, looking older. He's standing in front of the house. Looks like he's standing next to a newer car that he's purchased.
Is there an address on this house?
There is. There is an address for the Waring residents in Manistee, Jack and Victoria, 225 Applewhite Street, Manistee, New York.
Excuse me, sir. I found more pictures that match with the one that we're in.
Show me.
The first one that I found is when the two married, and then there's the picture with us in it, and then a few years later, there's a picture of just him in front of this house, and it says 225 Applewhite.
Ma'am, I don't want to seem like I'm overstepping my bounds. Are you by any chance adopted?
I'm close with my mother and my sister. I've never been told I was adopted. I guess I never thought to ask.
The same with me, ma'am.
And I put out my hand like a forward woman.
I can see by the look of panic in your eyes from looking at this photo, you must be Rosa. And I am Michael, one of the two boys in this photograph. The other is my brother Jeffrey, who I just tried to reach by telephone, but with no luck.
Well, I suppose we can't do any more research on any of it tonight. No clerk's office will be open, and we can't travel there, so as you said, we may want to make plans to go tomorrow. I'm going to fix a hair that's fallen out of my bun just so. It's like a nervous fidget.
Characterization work on here. Nice. And Michael adjusts his large pizza cutter thing on his forehead.
What is that thing called?
I have no idea. Pizza cutter thing. I think we got it right.
Dr.
Pizza Cutter.
Pizza Cutter. No.
It's a head mirror. A simple diagnostic device stereotypically worn by physicians, but less so in recent decades as they have become somewhat obsolete.
That's a dumb name.
So now, because we educated and entertained, we're liable for some grants. Yay! So you both retire to your rooms. Did any of you spring for good rooms, or are you just kind of slumming it? This is not a nice place. It was, but it's not anymore.
I'm going to try to call my mother and see what she knows of this family. Hopefully she hasn't retired to bed yet. I'll tell you what she said in the morning.
So the phone rings once or twice, and before Priscilla picks up in her usual cheery tone, hello?
Priscilla, is Mother there?
Yes, Rosa, what's the matter?
It's so strange. I saw a picture here that looks exactly like me.
A picture? Aren't you in that Keswick place? Let me get Mother. Hold on. You hear a kind of a tired-sounding woman. Hello?
Mama?
Oh, yes, dear. It's good to hear your voice. How was your trip?
Mama, what can you tell me about the Waring family?
And the phone goes quiet. You can still hear her breathing. Oh, I was worried you would find out this when you went there. You always have your nose in history. But some history is best left undisturbed, dear.
I met a man here that's also in the picture, Mama.
She sighs. She goes, was it Michael or Jeffrey?
How do you know?
You hear her kind of sniffle, and she goes, You're adopted, dear. Michael and Jeffrey are your brothers. That doesn't mean we love you any less. You're always our daughter. You've always been our daughter. And this doesn't change anything. I'm still your mother. Priscilla is still your sister.
How did you even find me?
Your birth mother put you up for adoption in the city. Your father and I didn't think we could conceive, and so we adopted you. We weren't able to take your brothers. We couldn't provide for all of you, but we could provide for one of you. But from what I understand, your brothers, they turned out well. I know one is a doctor. We've tried to keep tabs on all of you, but we just never had a good time to tell you the truth, and then it became too late. We didn't want to burden you with this. I'm sorry.
Michael and I are going to Manistee tomorrow.
I feel I should say something before you go to prepare you. You won't meet your birth mother. You may meet your father, but shortly after she put you up for adoption, your birth mother killed herself.
Why?
I don't know. Why does anyone do something like that? Something was wrong. She was sick. I'm sorry.
Good night, Mama.
Good night, dear. So I would like you to roll stability for me, because you just found out that your family, who's a source of your stability, is not your birth family. They're still your family.
And that my actual birth mother killed herself.
Yeah, you can roll. Since they happen to the same scene, you'll only roll for one.
I rolled a 3.
Well, the social stability wasn't killed, so I don't think it's a 6. I think this is either a 2 or a 3. I'm leaning towards 3 because of the dual shock of your birth mother killed herself after putting you up for adoption.
Mm-hmm.
And your source of stability is not what you knew them to be.
Right.
So I'm leaning towards 3. And if you go below 0, you become shaken. And between -6 and -11 is blasted. And then beyond -11, you are permanently insane. What are your rooms like?
I imagine that, again, it's somewhat shabby, because you had mentioned before that the bar was showing some signs of wear and tear. It might have been nice once, but that it needed some attention. Faded wallpaper and a sun-bleached quilt.
And Richard, is your room much the same?
Much the same. I've discovered there's no indoor plumbing. There's an outhouse out back.
Well, that's really woodsy for 1935.
The whole room smells of kerosene. I struggle to find my bed, discovering when I open a closet, it's actually a Murphy's bed.
So despite this, the wariness of your travels and the odd revelations, you manage to settle down and fall asleep fairly quickly. The town is dark and quiet fairly early. The bar below doesn't really attract rabble, so the hotel falls asleep at the same time, really. But you have strange dreams. Michael, in your dream, you are lying down, and there's a familiar, comforting smell all around you, although you cannot place it. Then you realize the smell is soil. You feel enclosed, safe, and warm. When you open your eyes, you see only soil. And when you open your mouth, soil rushes in. Yet you can still breathe. You are not scared. You sink deeper and deeper into the earth, feeling safer and safer. And I'd like you to give me a stability check.
2.
You lose 3 stability. You sit bolt upright in bed, gasping for air, and there's a small, odd part of you that is upset that your mouth is full of air. And over to Rosa. Rosa, you're standing inside of a stone circle on a hill. Others dancing around you with bizarre, ritualistic movements, whirling as they hold their arms horizontally. You recognize Michael is one of these people, a man lying face down, prostrate beside an open grave in front of you. In your hand is a curved ancient knife of strange metal, glows as you turn it into the dim moonlight, pink, then gold, then green. You know what you must do. You lean down and grab the back of the man's hair and slice his throat, and then make 2 deep cuts on his shoulders and his calves with these graceful, practiced diagonal cuts. This is right. You wake up. It's the morning.
I assume I'm rolling for sanity because in my dream I just killed somebody.
I prefer you did.
I got a 4. I'm
Hey.
strangely okay with this.
I'm assuming you just attribute it to, there has been so many shocks, you're bound to have strange dreams.
Yes.
You meet back in the hotel lobby, I assume, or the bar, get some breakfast?
Yes.
Michael, are you there already? Who came down first?
I came down first. I couldn't sleep. I was too shook from last night.
Rosa, you know something about Michael that Michael doesn't know yet.
So I will walk over to his table. Do you mind?
No, not at all. Please.
So I'll have a seat and put my bag gingerly next to me on the table. I was able to get through to my mother last night. She said that our mother put us up for adoption in the city, and that she could take me, but she couldn't take you and Jeffrey.
Maybe this afternoon we could meet our mother?
No. She said that Victoria, mother, killed herself shortly after she gave us up for adoption. I'm sorry.
So I think I should roll for that one.
Yeah, because it sounds like you knew that you were adopted and that maybe this was something you were hoping for.
4.
You're good. I think you can be upset without having it destabilize you,
Yeah, I guess in the back of my mind, I always figured it was something like that.
The bartender walks up to your table, looks at you, puts down, or refills your coffees, and says, "You both look terrible.
How rude. But right, I didn't sleep well.
Your bed's not to your liking, Your Majesty."
No, of course not. I had a bit of a shock and the travel was rough. Nothing to do with the room. Thank you.
He kind of looks at you seriously and nods, and you can tell, you didn't rise to his jab like he thought you would. So he kind of walks over behind the bar, comes over and pours a little thumb of whiskey into your coffee and says, "That'll aid your constitution, if you'll forgive me." And he kind of nods seriously and walks away. And that's about the height of kindness he can show to another person. Is there anything you want to do before you leave, or anything else wise asking before you head off to Manistee?
I just want to hit the road.
Yeah,
Or-
I mean, at this point, we don't really have any indication that there's more information here specifically.
So how are you getting there? By train, plane, or automobile?
Didn't you say there was a ferry that would take us there?
Yeah, that counts as a train. Shut up.
Well, I think we'll take the ferry to Manistee as soon as possible.
So you see one's leaving in the next hour. Buying tickets is no issue. You were some of the only people on board. There's a few farm animals being transported across the water. Oddest thing, though, is there's just static playing over the radio. You look around and no one else seems to notice this. You both hear static playing, and it's just loud. It's droning. It's almost as loud as the white noise of the waves. It's just static. And you look around and you see there's an old woman sitting a few rows away from you, and she's just tapping her foot lightly to some unheard song. Otherwise than that, the journey passes without much issue. You pull into port. You see the town of Manistee. So the village itself is even smaller than the one you just came from. It's all constructed out of the local gray slate, and it appears very grim and foreboding. It doesn't seem as old as the village you came from. It seems old enough. Something about it seems like it hasn't been weathered as much as the other locale. It's hemmed in by rough countryside. It's all angles and jagged stone. And above Manistee, there's 2 sets of rolling hills flanking the town. Not much greenery to speak of, just more some shrubs, some little scrub grass, a few trees here and there, a very rocky area. It just seems very bleak and deserted. And the only sign of human life in there is a few cow paths and goat paths, and mostly some abandoned mines. The local inn someone directs you to is called the Leeward Inn. And he says, if you have any questions, you'll find someone there who can answer them.
Well, I guess we should hope that the innkeeper here is a little bit more forthcoming than ours.
It's a short walk from the docks to the inn. The sign outside is faded and cracked, and inside you find a cold, dark bar where a few villagers are drinking oddly early in the morning. The bar is presided by a very suspicious-looking woman. She goes, "What can I get you? Rooms? Food? Drink?"
No, ma'am, just some information. What can you tell us about the Waring family on Applewhite Street?
She kind of looks down her significant nose at you and says, "That's town business. Who are you? Why are you asking about the wearings?
I think we've agreed that I'm going to use my flattery.
Okay.
I mean, I have interrogation. I could tie her to a chair and hook a battery to her nipples. But I don't think Nate will let me do that. So using my flattery, I will say, ma'am, we came here because we were told that you were the smartest woman in town, and if we had any questions, that you knew more than even the mayor of this town. And these people wouldn't be lying now, would they?
So she kind of blushes and says, oh, well, the wearings are here. Well, it's just Mary at this point, since Jack disappeared. About 6 years ago. You should hear this from Mary. I don't think it's right for me to talk about it. It's not my family. Mary still lives at the old house up on Applewhite.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
It's strange. We don't get many visitors here, but you're the second out of towners we've had in the past week. It's strange.
Who else was here?
Another man. I didn't catch his name, but he is staying here. He should be down, I imagine, for breakfast soon. Between you and me, I don't want to sound like a busybody, but he's a bit of a late riser. He looks unwell. He doesn't look well at all. You overhear one of the farmers. He's lamenting the fact that one of his pigs just went plumb up and missing. He had it. He fed him that evening. He shut the barn. Next day, barn's empty. No sign of anything. Pig's gone. Can't figure it out. And later on, you see a man walk down the stairs looking gray, like his skin doesn't quite fit him anymore, like he's lost a lot of weight recently. And he looks nervous, moving slow, though. And Michael, you recognize him. This is Jeffrey. This is your brother.
Jeffrey.
He looks over and rushes over and he hugs you. And he feels cold to you. You can hear him as he's hugging you start sobbing. He says, Michael, I don't feel good, Michael.
What's wrong? Why are you even here? You're supposed to be home in New York.
He looks around and goes, not here, please. Come with me. I'm sorry, I'm terribly rude. My name is Jeffrey. And he holds out his hand to shake your hand, Rosa.
Jeffrey from the picture.
The picture?
And I reach back out to him.
He looks at you confused and says, the picture. And he shakes your hand and you feel it's almost as if the skin on his fingers don't quite fit. Almost like it's a loose feeling cold glove. He says, pleased to make your acquaintance. I'd rather not talk here. Please follow me. I am staying here. I have a room.
I'm going to look at Michael because...
And I give her the nod like, he's cool. He's not a narc.
So Jeffrey brings you up to his room. It's a nicer room than you have. Just saying, your room sucks. And he says, I don't know how I got here. He sits down on his bed and he gestures to you to sit wherever chairs.
I'm not going to sit. I'm too uneasy. I'm playing with the clasp on my purse.
And Michael, you notice that he keeps touching his wrist and shaking his head and rocking, and then touching his wrist some more, and then touching his neck and rocking, crying, and just saying, I don't feel good. I don't feel right. And holding his head.
Jeffrey, let me examine you, and I want to use my medicine.
Sure.
Which is a +2.
So he holds out his wrist to you. You put your fingers to it, and you wait. You feel no pulse. Touch his neck. You feel no pulse. You put your hand to your head and feel warmth. You put your hand to Jeffrey's head. Feel room temperature at best. As far as you can tell, clinically, your brother is dead.
Stability check.
Yes.
2.
Ooh.
5 stability.
Brutal.
I don't feel good. I can't get my pulse. I'm not sleeping. I don't have to eat anymore. I just don't feel good.
Jeffrey, how long have you been like this?
Since I got here, it's been like a week.
And you have no idea how you got here whatsoever. What was the last thing you remember?
I had a little fever, I thought, and I had these strange dreams, people dancing, and I fell asleep, and I woke up here, and I didn't have a suitcase, but I've managed to get some clothes, and I live here, I guess. The people are nice. I don't know why I'm here.
I'm going to say I need to do a stability check because he said that he was having strange dreams about dancing on the hill. And that
Go
was
for
my
it.
dream.
Yeah.
I got a 2.
No, I'm going to say you lose 2 stability.
Okay, so now I'm at stability 5.
He kind of looks up. Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. I don't mean to frighten you. Just these dreams. It was a stone circle and people dancing, and I was lying down on the dirt. You recognize him now, Rosa. You recognize him as the man on the dirt from your dreams, the one you cut. He talks about rolling into the dirt and sinking into the ground.
So now that's your dream.
I was gonna say that's my dream. I think I got to roll another stability.
Go for it.
4.
You're fine. Maybe you're thinking there's some kind of mass hallucination or...
Right. There's a rational, reasonable explanation for all of this. I assume Jeffrey doesn't know what we know at this point.
I mean, he keeps calling me ma'am. I assume he doesn't know who I am.
Jeffrey, we're here because on my vacation, we saw a picture with us as children, and this is Rose, who you've met. She's in the picture as well, and we know where our family comes from, and it's this town.
We're adopted?
I thought you knew, Jeffrey.
I mean, I always assumed. I guess a part of me thought that couldn't be so. Did they live here in Manistee?
Well, what's left of our family. We're on their way to our childhood home to meet the last surviving member of our family.
We can't quite process this. You can see he's just shaking his head, and I don't feel well, Michael. If you'll forgive me, I'll stay here while you go.
We'll be back as soon as we can, and we'll bring medicine.
Yes, of course. I know I can count on you, Michael.
Let's get you tucked in, dear.
Ah, yes, Rosa. Sister, I suppose.
You'll be warm soon.
Yes, very good. He kind of settles down. He looks out the window and just stops. He's just looking out the window. That's it. And now you've met Jeffrey.
Yay!
Spooky.
So far I've found out that I'm adopted by accidentally meeting my brother. Found out that in the course of finding out that I was adopted, also that my mother is dead. Met my zombie brother. Found out that our father is also probably dead. And that there's another mystery person who I'm probably related to. Perfect.
So where to now, gang?
Say we get to that house.
And as we walk, I'm going to say that I'm distractedly glancing up at the hill on the way over.
You don't see any standing stones on the hill near you, which I suppose is reassuring. You ask some locals directions, and they're able to give you a decent enough place. It's a few miles out. You can hop on the back of a cart heading that way if you'd like, or you can walk. Up to you.
I feel the need to walk.
The path up the road to the Waring house is strangely familiar. You feel like you recognize things. You feel like you recognize a mile marker here, or an old stone wall and a crumbling barn there. But you chalk it up to just looking for something familiar in these unfamiliar areas. And then you see the house. It's a medium cottage. It's gray. Your feet crunch up the gravel driveway, and that sound sparks something in you, some kind of old memory, further back than any other memory you've had. You've walked these grounds before. You've seen this house, and you know that to be true, just as you know that as soon as that door is open, the wallpaper inside will be yellow with a tulip design. Summoning your knowledge, you walk up to the door and you knock on it.
Do we feel reassured by the memory or unsettled by it?
Up to you.
I think everything thus far is very unsettling.
Well, yeah, but that's what it would strike me as like interesting if that was a calming thing. You know, like, oh, everything has been weird about this, but somehow this is better. I guess it would depend on what kind of life we had there, which I don't know yet.
Which doesn't seem like it was a great one.
Yeah, I mean, our entire family fell apart, so
Yeah. So I'm going to say that it's unsettling.
Okay. Well, you knock on the door, and a woman in her mid to late 40s, answers. She looks tired. And you see behind her there's yellow wallpaper, faded, much more faded than in your memories, with a faint tulip pattern. And she goes, can I help you? And why don't you both roll stability checks for me, given that the wallpaper matches your memory?
I got a 6. I'm so okay with this, you don't even know.
Good. Yes, wallpaper. Excellent.
Finally, something went the way I expected.
I rolled a 6 as well. I'm even more okay with it.
You told you it was about fucking wallpaper. What? This woman greets you. Hello, can I help you?
Ma'am, are you Mary Waring?
Yes. Is something wrong? You hear a little voice behind her. What is it, Mommy? Yeah, what is it? Says another voice, and you look, and there's 2 identical blonde-haired little girls, about the age of 10. She goes, nothing. Go back in the house.
Does she look like us? The kids?
The kids, let's say you could be half siblings, because that's what you are.
I'm so sorry, ma'am. Now that we're here, I just all the words flew right out of my head. My name is Rosa Allen. Well, I suppose Rosa Waring.
So she kind of takes a step back. She goes, oh my God. She looks up at you too, Michael, and says, you're Jack's. You're 2 of his children from his first marriage, Victoria. Oh, please come in. I'm so sorry to be rude. And she steps out of the way and invites you into the home. And the home is small and dusty. She cares for what she can, but you can tell the last few years have been very hard on her, being a single mother of 2 young girls. She sits you into the living room. She says, I'll get you tea. Please make yourself comfortable. And you can hear the little girls in the background listening to the radio. But the radio is static.
Oh, why?
Your eyes catch part of the door jamb where you used to mark your heights. You can see your initials marked in there. And on the other side of them, you can see where the 2 little girls have their initials marked in the household that you didn't get to grow up in. And you see the 2 little girls listening to the radio, and every now and then one of them leans in and whispers something into the radio and giggles. And the static just continues, crackling. And Mary comes back and says, turn that radio down, please, girls. Our guests, I'm sure, can hardly hear what they're saying. Nobody wants to hear Cole Porter that loud. Please. And she sets 2 teacups in front of you.
I rub my temples and think maybe I should have had that whiskey.
And she says, I'm so sorry. You must have so many questions about your father and mother and everything. What can I do for you?
I don't even know what to ask.
I guess I'd start with, our father is missing? Is he presumed dead? What happened?
And she goes, I'm sorry. You have to forgive me. I'm a very private person. This information, I feel I owe it to you. He left 6 years ago without any explanation. He was a loving man. He looked for you at first. And he couldn't find you. Of course, Victoria, poor dear, she couldn't tell him. She killed herself shortly after she put you up for adoption without his knowledge. 6 years ago, he left. That was it. He's just gone. And now here we are.
I'm going to dab at my eyes, a little surprised that I'm feeling so emotional about something that I didn't even know was a thing until yesterday.
Yeah, this is some heavy shit, man.
Yeah, right?
Did he tell you what happened to our mother?
He just said she wasn't well. She one day drove you into the city, and then they found her a few days later. He didn't tell me how she did it, but they found her in a hotel in New York. She didn't leave a note. I'm sorry, I don't have more information on Victoria. All I know is that everyone in town spoke well of her. They said she was a loving mother. She was a good person. She volunteered at the church, and she helped out the elderly. She brought things to them, and they were in need, and this was very uncharacteristic. I've often wondered what drove her to this, and you always assume that, it's the husband must be terrible, but I can say honestly, Jack was a blessing. He was an attentive father. He used to run the little schoolhouse for the children down the way. And she kind of points out the window, and you can see a small one-room schoolhouse. He was a smart man, and I don't know what happened to him.
No, man, we won't keep you any longer. We must be going.
before you leave, I want you to know that we're not family, but this is your home. Your sisters are your family, I suppose. Little Bethany and Liza. Should you ever find yourself in Manistee again, we'd like it if you stop by. Just don't be strangers. And she catches you both in a sudden embrace. And she pulls herself away, collecting herself quickly. And she dabs at her face and goes, if you'll excuse me, I have to get lunch started. And she walks into the kitchen.
It's so strange being here.
You see a door to the children's play area where they were playing, listening to the radio. And there's another door to a bathroom. Something catches your eye in the bathroom. You notice a mirror. The mirror is heavily scratched to where a person's face would be. The face is almost entirely removed by scratches on the glass.
I guess I'll point it out to Michael quietly, because...
So Michael, you go in there, and soon you see there's two little girls standing behind you both. Hello.
Hi there. What seemed to happen to your mirror?
Oh, Mommy doesn't like to talk about it, and she said we were too young to remember. But she also told me that Daddy left because, and then the little other girl goes, Liza, no, we're not supposed to talk about that. She goes, shut up, I know. Daddy left because he was having bad dreams. He didn't like his face anymore.
Oh, well, I can see why your mother wouldn't want to talk about it. That sounds scary.
I think Daddy went crazy. And Liza went, no, he didn't. He just had to go somewhere on an adventure. You don't know anything. She goes, yes, I do too. And she pulls her hair and they get into a tussle. Mary comes back into the room and says, what's going on in here? You girls, leave our guests alone, please.
I have a sister myself. Well, I have an adopted sister, I suppose. But we used to fight all the time also.
And she kind of gestures you to come out of the bathroom. And she shuts the door tight behind you and she goes, adopted or not, your family is still very important. And just because you're adopted doesn't mean they're any less important to you, dear. They chose you, and that's important. That's special. Don't forget that.
I think we'll be off to look around a little bit more. You understand this is all jarring. It's strange to see places that look familiar, but you don't really remember them.
Of course, dear. If you have any questions about Jack or want to talk about old stories or anything, you're always welcome back.
Rosa, how do you feel about heading to the schoolhouse?
Seems like the next step, I suppose.
So it's an unremarkable, disused building. On closer inspection, it's a tiny Victorian school. It has separate entrances, one for girls and one for boys. The building is not locked, so you're able to get in without any problem. It looks kind of like Chernobyl in that everything was just left one day and not touched since. So thick dust covers rows of wooden desks. The blackboard behind cobwebs shows math equations. Weeds and moss are pushing through the flagstone floor. Out of the two of you, I believe Rose is the oldest.
Yes.
A year, yeah.
I think you have more fleeting memories than Michael does at this point. And you feel you've been here before. It just seems very small to you now. And you're positive that the one desk up in the front is your desk, or was your desk anyway. You walk up, you lift the lid, and sure enough, you find your name scratched underneath in a childish version of your own handwriting.
I would like to look to see what is on the teacher's desk.
You find a note written by a child. And it has a date 6 years ago. And it says, you are not here. We are going home. Come and get us when school starts. And it seems no one's been here since the note was left. School never restarted. So Rosa, as you're looking around the desk, you find a book tucked away in one of the drawers. And it's a book on the witch cult of the Finger Lake area. It's got puritanical tracts about, the devil worshippers coming and all this. There's something called Castle Rig Stone Circle, which is marked on a map, and you recognize the area being a few short miles away from where you are now. That was the site of human sacrifices. Victims were buried alive. Excavations of the area never found any remains.
Is there anything else of interest that I can glean given my background?
Not from this book, but I think the general area, things are just interesting to you in the schoolhouse. You're digging through, you find some of the children's exercise books. It looks like he tasked the student to write a report using this book, and they returned the report along with the book itself. He talks about local legends, once again, burying the victim alive. They said there was dancing involved. They cavorted under the moonlight, slayed the victim, and rolled him into the dirt. They reference some other sermons of the time, decrying the evils of the pagans and the devil worshipping. And they talk about something called the fate of Low Manistee, but you don't understand what that means.
Don't you think we both ought to have a stability check after seeing what was in our dreams now in a journal?
That's why I wanted you to be able to direct that. And yes, I do think you should do that.
Yay! I got a 3.
I got a 1.
We're both losing 2 stability here.
Okay, I'm now at a stability 3.
I'm at 0.
I believe, Richard, that you're shaken. You can still do your job, but you seem distracted. You can't spend points from the pools of your investigative abilities. And all your difficulty numbers are increased by 1. For you, shaken might be that you start fixating on strange things. You might develop a little bit of a tic. Something is just off about you now. This is all just a bit too much between your brother, your adoption, your new family, your lost family, and the mysterious circumstances of everything. And your dreams, the endless dream of swimming under the earth.
I've got a fun tick for you.
Okay, hit me.
Looking for your own pulse.
Ooh, I like that.
I don't. I don't like that.
And
Wait a
then one
minute,
time you can't find it, you just flip the fuck out.
I think I would just go insane at that point.
Ooh, that's really good, Jen.
Thank you.
Wait, so should I check it now? Yeah, so I check my own pulse.
It's a split second before your heart beats that you're terrified, and then it beats.
Thank God.
I think there's also a part of you that desperately wants to check Rose's pulse.
Every time I meet somebody, that's the first thing I'm doing.
Like, at first you're really good about hiding it as, like, shaking hands weird.
No. I go to, I'm like, I'm comforting you. Well, it seems that I'm comforting you, and I'm like rubbing your shoulder and put my hand, on yours reassuringly. But then I quickly move your wrist over and check.
I love it.
Michael,
Yes.
you find a child's drawing. It looks like a house, crudely drawn, with this worm coming out of the ground, looking into one of the windows. A big worm. And the story says, once upon a time, there was a little girl who lived in Manistee, and one day she found a gray, slimy hand reaching through the earth, and she didn't know what to do. What is this, she asked, but her mummy and daddy did not know. The next day, she was walking through the woods, and she saw a monster, and it was all wormy and slimy, and it smiled at her. The little girl went home and told her mummy and daddy, but they did not believe her. Then the wormy, slimy monsters under the earth came up that night and ate the little girl up and her mummy and daddy, and they tore the house and ate its bricks. The end. So that is your beautiful schoolhouse.
So we have low Manistee. We can go back to Jeffrey. I want to go up on one of those hills, though, man.
Okay.
Like, I feel the need to prove to myself that it's not really there.
Michael, are you going with her?
Feel like yes, but I also feel like I'd want to get back to my brother.
I mean, you can always split up. That's fine.
But if that's what you got to do and you want to check out that stone thing, I don't think it's a good idea to go alone, but I have obligations to my brother.
I'll wait for you and go see what I can find at the library.
That I think is wise.
So that about wraps it up for part 1 of our 2-part episode, The Dance in the Blood. I hope you had fun. I hope you come back in 2 weeks to hear the exciting conclusion. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments, as always, you can email us at potofblunders@gmail.com or tweet at us at potofblunders. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook. Of course, you can find all of our homebrew content, our reviews, our episodes, and a variety of other wonderful things on potofblunders.com. And we love hearing from you, so please don't hesitate to reach out. If you wouldn't mind, please go on to iTunes and give us a rating. 5 stars helps us reach a bigger audience. It makes us more friends, and that makes us happy. For the Pot of Blunders, I say to you, as always, may all of your Ds be 12s.